Have you ever struggled with trying to integrate your personal life into your professional real estate life? If so, then this episode is for you. Today, I sit down with Steph Crawford out of Boston, who has been able to take her yoga practice in instructing and bring that forward into her real estate business to help curate and generate more leads for her business. If you find value in content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And as always, I'm your host and San Francisco referral partner, Shawn Kunkler. Steph, thanks for joining me today. I'm pretty stoked to sit down and chat with you.
I'm really excited to be here.
It's funny, in thinking about what I want to talk about, I want to kind of unpack how you've been able to integrate different aspects of your life, build your team, and do this all in a pretty short period of time, which is really cool. Where do you want to start this conversation?
That's up to you. I think as I've sort of fallen into this career, I previously came from the world of philanthropy in the Boston hospital system. And I worked in philanthropy starting at Harvard. I worked at the Brigham. I worked at Beth Israel Deaconess, all in various capacities of philanthropy. And I ended up in real estate. It was a very natural progression, honestly, because I was working with clients. And it was just something that I felt like maybe I should explore and give it an opportunity. And I got my MBA and I was sort of figuring it out. We had like a health situation. I had a miscarriage. And I thought, this is a good time for me to take a pause and sort of reevaluate what career I was in. And I did some, light interviews of some clients that I had worked with in the philanthropy side. And I decided I'm going to get my license and go for it. So I dove right in, and that's kind of my personality, which I think is a positive thing, but also can come with challenges because I really go all in and give everything my best. But sometimes I do it a little bit too eagerly. So I've learned a lot in this process over the last couple of years in real estate.
It's funny. I just recently had a conversation with Caitlin Mahoney on an earlier episode, and her and I were talking about the attributes and qualities of CEOs. And she referred to those qualities as being a tiger, but you also have to tame the tiger because you have to balance those sides of your personality. So I think all sides of our personality are attributes and assets, but they're also, in the wrong setting, detrimental if we don't learn how to steer ourselves in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's interesting with philanthropy. I know Lindsay Nurin out of Austin, Texas, that's her background as well. And it sounds like with her and with you, the skills that you learn in that space, for one reason or another, just translate really well into the real estate realm.
It's very easily transferable skills. I think your assumption too, as you get into real estate, that it would be very seamless to take some of those clients from your philanthropy background into the real estate. I haven't had that kind of success as much, just because I think a lot of my clients were making, multi-million-dollar gifts. They usually have a realtor and don't want to use, someone that's just starting off in the business. But as far as skill set is concerned, totally transferable. Gives you all the opportunities to practice difficult conversations. In fact, I would say real estate may be a little bit easier than philanthropy because at least there's some sort of tangible asset associated with, your time and energy. Whereas philanthropy, you're being altruistic and giving, your money with the hope of, some progress being made at whatever institution you're supporting. Both very important and usually a big milestone in your life if you've had some sort of experience at that institution that you want to give back. So, it's been a really fun transition, and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
That's amazing. And I know you also have an athletic component to your background, which we were talking about briefly before getting on air. And I always feel like people with an athletic background, if you just go back and listen to all the previous episodes, 90% of the people have some sort of athletic component that they brought to the business as well. And I think what that is it's having that mindset of doing hard work, and sometimes with no payoff, the risk of injury, and just doing the time.
And also balance, I would say. Something, I was a collegiate athlete and I ran track. I actually did pole vaulting, which is so random, but I got recruited for it, and I competed in college at Wheaton College. And then after that, I always was looking for something like that helped me balance like stress in my life. And so I started teaching yoga, hot yoga with weights. So it's not like your flow, vinyasa, easy yoga. It's the difficult kind of like HIIT yoga. And I've been teaching at Core Power for 6+ years. And it is really how I like stay authentic to myself and my business as well. It really balances out just my day, really. Keeps you having a level head.
Did you find any challenges integrating the different aspects of who you are, meaning going from philanthropy to real estate and teaching yoga? Did you find it to be a challenge to introduce your yoga, the people who know you as a yoga instructor, that you also do real estate, or the people you are working with on the real estate needs that you also do yoga? Did you find any challenges with that, or have you?
Yes, so many. And I'm glad you asked, because I think, especially in real estate, I think as I was bringing that experience, as I was sort of embarking on this new career into real estate, I was teaching at Core Power and now at another studio here in Boston called Down Under Yoga. But something I always struggled with was I'm teaching my students and offering this amazing class and making sure, the sequence is perfected over, 6 years now. It's, I don't even think about it. I do think about it, but it's easier than it was when I started it, of course. But I always struggled when I first got into real estate on talking about my real estate career, because I felt like my students are there to get a workout, not to hear about real estate or be pitched on something. And over the past probably year or so, I've really started just reminding students that I do, and not a push, but at the end of class, I say, if you want to focus on something outside of, if you want to focus on a particular move or body part or, area of focus, or if you want a song request, please let me know. I also do real estate outside of teaching yoga as my full-time career. If you're ever interested in exploring what that might look like for you, or if you have families or friends that are interested in real estate, I'm happy to have a conversation with them. And I, say I have a 2-year-old as well. So I make it more of, here's a little more background about me. So it's more authentic versus kind of slamming it into people's faces. I do real estate. Call me. So I try to make sure it's always authentic and genuine to my students, just so they know I'm in the business. And if that opportunity ever comes up, that they think of me first.
It's funny. I've talked about this on other episodes with other people, but when we think about the people in our lives that are close to us, the ones that we care about the most, we actually know a lot of things about them, not just one thing. I'll give you an example. My good friend Ray is a dentist who I've talked about on the podcast before, but he's also one of my dear friends' brother. And so we've all become friends, but I know a lot about Ray, more than he's just a dentist. And I think, especially in real estate, when we start bonding with our clients on that deeper level, they know more about us. And it's not detrimental or a hindrance. It's actually an attribute and a benefit, because they see you in these different, like, you're a teacher of yoga, that's a professional category unto itself. And you're running a team, and you're a mom. And, there may be that person who then immediately clicks into them. They're like, oh, they get that.
I think it shows you're, multifaceted, right? Like, you're just not this one little box. I'm not just your yoga instructor, but I'm actually a real person that has a life.
I feel like we within this industry all need to give ourselves more permission to integrate those pieces of ourselves, especially if they're, let me rephrase, if they're positive.
Right.
Because again, I feel like it's such an important component when your clients are going through one of the most stressful things in their life. They can identify with you in multiple categories, or they know the road ahead. Like I still work out all the time. My trainer is one of my good friends from the past 20 years. He's close to my age. He's suffered a lot of the same injuries. He also has a martial art background. So when I talk to him and I'm like, hey man, I'm having trouble doing this exercise because it's hurting my shoulders. He's already been through that. He knows that road. And I trust him on a deeper level because I have all of these other touch points with our relationship. So sorry to rant, but I think it's such an important thing for agents to really lean into those components of themselves, because it actually makes you more likable
and relatable. I think hearing my background about my medical stuff, like that's relatable. The fact that I have a 2-year-old is relatable. The fact that I do real estate is another piece. It just adds to the color of who I am as a person. And whether it's in, if you do athletics or you do some sort of activity that allows you to unplug, making sure that, you connect with your students on a deeper level than just, I'm here to teach a class. And I think it also shows you're more invested in it as a person because of who you are. And I think everybody wants that connection a little bit more to know about, the people that are in their lives, whether it's your instructor. It's fun to get to know people in that capacity. And something that I always say to my students is, if you can't be vulnerable and try something new on your mat, you absolutely cannot do it outside of this safe space. So there's always opportunity to challenge yourself. And I think that hones into the home buying process can be incredibly stressful, and you can have multiple offers, especially in a spring market where it's really competitive and there's low inventory like we're in right now. And how to funnel that anxiety in a positive way and lean on me as someone that handles that kind of stress all the time and help you, redirect it or have difficult conversations about, hey, this might just not be a house that we're going to be able to get. It's a bidding war and we don't have a competitive advantage, or here's the ways that we could, if you're comfortable, and if you're not, that's absolutely okay. But we might not get this house. And I just want you to be prepared for that.
Creating that safe space for that client it's paramount for their success most of the time. And it's, to your point earlier, it's not dissimilar from being in a yoga session or a martial art class or any of the other modalities of working out. Like you do as an instructor, as a coach, as a real estate liaison, you have to create that safe space for them to be able to make a decision. People make horrible decisions under high pressure. And so if you can pace them through it and set them up, they'll be much more successful, which is also the same for your team that you're collaborating with, your brokerage, and all those other pieces.
For sure.
You're in that phase of you're building out your team right now, right?
I am. I was on a team last year, which was fantastic. And I was just having so much success, and I do love management. And so I decided to take the leap this year and start my own team. And it's been really fun. I have 2 people, one guy that does more like marketing, videography, a lot of community engagement that he's pushing me to do and reaching out to local restaurants, shops, boutiques, all of them, and talking about what makes them unique. And it allows me just to be out there more. And then my other staff member, she's amazing. She's so smart, so driven. She's gonna take over the world this year. I love everything about her. She's so ambitious. She has a law background. She pushes me to think about things differently. I just had an offer earlier this week, and she said, why don't you try this? And it didn't even, and that's the power of collaboration, whether she's on my team or a colleague of mine or I think we can all learn from each other on different strategies that might work. And, even if we didn't get the place, we didn't get the property, but you know who loved that idea? My client. They were so grateful. They were like, God, that's a great idea. I'm like, you don't need to know that. But it's the importance of leaning into each other and capitalizing on your own experiences. And I'm very, very grateful that I have just an incredible, team right now. I don't know how much I'm going to grow. I don't want to go in over my head, but I've really enjoyed the people that I've surrounded myself with. And I think that's the most important thing, really. All ships rise together, and I make sure that I create value for them on my team. I want them to feel like I care about them, which I do deeply, because I wouldn't be able to do I wouldn't be able to be on this podcast without them, because they're covering calls or whatever. And I think oftentimes new agents try to be the best at everything, and realizing you're not going to have any balance in your life. So I'm terrible at videography. I don't want to be good at videography, and I really don't want to be good at social media. And that's why I have people to help me. And I love that. And that's why I have my colleague to help me with various aspects of listings. And, it's such a multifaceted industry. So I think early on to know that you can't do everything, and that's okay, is a big part of growing.
That's a part of maturity for sure. It's really hard some days to sit down, look yourself in the mirror and just be like, I am not good at this. And I don't actually want to be good at this. I don't have any desire to get any better at this. And then strategically then figuring out, how do I get this off my plate so I don't have to muck this up?
I mean, it's social media, right? For a lot of people, it's like, I hate being on camera. I hate being on camera. And it's funny, I can teach a 40, 50 person class, no problem.
We're all quirky.
Yeah. Whereas if you put that stupid phone in front of me and say, Steph, say this, I'm like, where are my arms? I don't know what to do. Like, why does my face look like this? Why is my mouth doing this weird thing on one side? We're our own worst critics. But I think give yourself a break, like in yoga, like in every, athletic modality. Like, you're not going to be great at everything. You have to, and it's just like a muscle. I try every day to try to be on social media. I hate it every time, but I'm getting better. We're doing these community outreach efforts. Like I talked about my first one, I was so awkward. I'm so awkward. But then this last one, I was just like, oh, well, we're here with so-and-so. And it went so great. And I wasn't even flustered at all. I was like, this is easy. We can do these all day. And so it's just practice, getting yourself out there. And it's easier said than done, of course, but having people to back you, to push you to do it, like having a coach. This year, a goal of mine was to have a coach. So I hired a Tom Ferry coach, and he's been amazing. So he keeps me on track, which I get not easily distracted necessarily, but if a new deal is coming or something, you tend to lean into that. But then come back to, it's right. It's so hard. That's the nature of our job. So you can be distracted, but try to come back to those important pieces that you have to build on every day in order to make tomorrow also yields, positive returns.
I mean, one thing that I always try to remind myself, like doing this podcast or starting anything new, I always try to remind myself that every black belt was a white belt at some point. Meaning we all suck. Like Michael Jordan sucked at one point.
When he was an infant, he must have sucked.
Right? For 10 minutes.
Yeah, for a couple of times.
But you get better by practice. And so we all have to step back and give ourselves permission to get 1% better, but to start at a place that's not going to be 100% perfect. And it's hard because we're in a performance-driven industry where we have spotlights on us all the time. And I know for me, coming from, like for you, if you're an instructor and you're an A+ in this category, and you've come from a prestigious school and you're an A+ in that category, and then you've A+ out in philanthropy, and now you're coming into real estate with no grade and you're starting from zero. It's like it's hard on your ego to put yourself out there.
And you have to give yourself permission, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, like be patient, try not. And I know most agents that come into this are type A people. They try really hard and they want to be successful. And I'm just like that immediately. And I think just understanding that it is going to take some time to build those contacts and that relationship. Even the girl that's on my team, Nicole, who, as I've mentioned, I love her, but she's building her book of business. So I said, open your phone, look at your contacts, add everybody to our CRM. Those are your people. That is your CRM. Then go to your Instagram, see how many people you interact with. Those are your contacts. Do you have their emails? Then go to Facebook. So go on all these different things. That is your CRM to start with. And I think you think, oh, well, I need a buyer. And it's like, you don't. You need to let everybody know in your circle that you do real estate. And sometimes it's hard. Like I've personally have a challenge with this with my yoga people. But if people love you, they want to know what you're doing. They want to know you're in real estate. And then when they think of, oh, I don't know. Who do I know in real estate? Oh my gosh, I know Nicole. I know Steph. She does real estate. She teaches my yoga class. So it needs to become second nature to people to think of you. And I think, whether it's social media, whatever it is, becoming top of mind is really the ultimate goal to be successful in this business.
Again, not to loop it back to martial arts or yoga. However, it's like day one, you suck. But here's the key. If you schedule it in and you show up consistently, virtue of time, you will get better.
You'll suck less. A little bit.
Right now you're sucking and you just suck less.
But you'll slowly suck less. But then maybe you'll be okay.
I feel like I need to write a book that says suck 1% less tomorrow.
Right. Or maybe downgrade that. Suck 0.005% less. Like keep it, even keeled.
But giving yourself permission, similar to what you were saying earlier, when you're on the mat, give yourself permission to try it. Because if you don't, you just have to just do it. And I think, at the end of the day, that's part of the vulnerability that, everybody talks about as a buzzword these days. But those are the parts of people we like.
And it's so easy to compare ourselves. I think this is such an interesting time in every industry, but with social media, everyone looks successful, is crushing it, has a new listing, has sold a property. How often do you go on social media and say like, I'm having a really down day. I'm feeling really bad. Like no one posts that.
Or they do this. Sorry to interrupt. They're like, having a really bad day. I only got 10 into contract. 10 into contract. But look at my beautiful hair because of this filter.
Like, it's so hard. Keep things in perspective and not compare yourself. And that's what I say in yoga too, not to, beat a dead horse here, but like at yoga and martial arts, you always want to look at the person next to you and be like, why are they so much better than me? And it's like, no one cared. And I always say to my students, like, we do a cardio stuff, we do all kinds of stuff, but I can tell some people are looking at each other and I'm like, no one's looking at you. The only person that's looking at you kind of is me. And I'm just making sure your alignment is good. That's all I care about. I don't care how good you're doing it. I don't care how high your leg goes. I care that your hip is down and that your heel is to the sky so that you're focusing on the right muscle group. So I think giving yourself a break, don't compare yourself to other people. And it's so much easier said than done. But I'm terrible at it too. I go on, I'm like, oh geez, like they're at 5 properties. They have another coming soon listing. Like I don't even have one yet. Although I do have one coming soon, which is great. But, it takes time. It takes time and it takes a lot of building relationships.
Well, here's a secret I learned in martial arts is, let's say you got 20 people in the class. That person standing next to you is staring in the mirror being like, oh man, I'm screwing this up. My elbow's out. My knees aren't turned. I wonder if everybody's looking at me thinking I suck. And the person next to them is like, I wonder if that person next to me thinks I suck. Everybody's so worried about how they're being perceived that they don't actually care about you. They're not even paying attention to you. So be free, like go do your thing. No one is actually monitoring you. And with social, I think the thing, it's a numbers game. And it's similar to everything else. In sales, it's like you have to hear 98 no's before you're going to get to 2 yeses. That's just part of the game. Like they don't dislike you. That's just math.
It's like dating. You just have to keep dating.
You have to kiss a lot of frogs. But if you're following 1,000 agents on social media, right? And one person out of the 1,000 posts the house that they just sold or whatever they did. All like if you just think about the math, if you have 1,000 and only one of them post it, and then like per day, right? So you're seeing one per day of somebody being successful, but that's out of 1,000 people.
Right. So you have to keep it in perspective.
It's all about perspective.
It's all about perspective. And I think if I was to give myself, and I'm not good at this. I'm putting this out. My coach is like, I'm going to hold you accountable to these things. I'm doing great at a lot of things, but I'm not doing great at a lot of things too. So something that he keeps me, I'm getting, this event with Lululemon, I'm getting this event with doing this and collaborations with these organizations. That's all good. But like, when was the last time I called someone in my CRM? And every day I have it in my calendar, call lead generation, call 5 people. You know how many times I've done that in the past week? Zero.
Do you have your phone in front of you?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I'm going to challenge you right now. You ready for this?
No.
You ready?
Yeah.
Scroll through your phone super quick. Text somebody and say, hey, I just came across your name and wanted to say hi.
Okay. All right. This is mean.
And I assure you, no one's going to be like, oh my God, Steph, I cannot believe you said hi. Shame on you. That's it.
Okay. You see this? You see this is happening? Can you see? I'm doing it. This is actually an old neighbor. Hey there, was just thinking of you.
I think the hard thing that we all do in real estate is we're always looking for leads. We're looking for that buyer. That's not what we should be looking for. What we're looking for is conversations.
And that's what he said to me this week. We had our call yesterday. I want you to have 10 conversations this week. I'm like, but it's Thursday. And he's like, I know, you got a lot of work to do then.
Have you ever heard of the Ford call?
You know what? I think when I was in business school, we did a whole case study on Ford, their model, right?
No, it's an acronym, but it's not the actual company.
Like, I know that case study, Ford. Yeah, totally.
You're like, it's an amazing company.
They did they're like the Toyota line, right? Same thing 100 times.
So Ford is friend, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And so basically what you do is you call someone up and you just say, hey, it's been a while. I haven't chatted with you. Just wanted to see how you and your family are doing.
Okay.
And you basically go through, how's work? Is everything good on that front? Yeah. Do you have any vacations planned? What do you got going on? And then are you guys doing do you have any other projects or anything else? And that's it. And so you're just giving a little bit direction to that conversation. And I guarantee it. I'll put money on this. They're going to ask about you, and they're inevitably going to ask, how's the market? What do you do now?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do? If they know you're in real estate, it's how's the market? And if not, because I'm assuming we're friends with people who are just not pure narcissists, they're going to say, how are you? How's work? What are you doing these days? And you're like, oh my goodness, actually I transitioned. I'm on this team now. I'm doing this. It's really exciting. Like, thanks for asking. I'm really stoked about it. It's been like this amazing adventure.
And I think that's, we talk about like pain points, and this is a pain point of mine. I don't want to bother this person. And I'm like, well, what am I going to say? And so that's a pain point for me. I'm really good at other things. This is just I'm not great at reaching out to my CRM and like, developing that kind of lead generation, which should be my foundation. So there's always opportunities to grow and learn and get better at everything. And so I think being okay with you're never going to be the best. There's always something to learn. And I think that's true in athletics. That's true in every facet of your life with your partner. as a parent, as a kid, you try to be the best version of yourself and lead with authenticity. And for me personally, I just always want to be really transparent with my clients on what's happening, that I'm always advocating for them on, very with honesty, integrity, because sometimes I find that that's not always true at times in this business. So making sure that my clients always feel supported and that I have their best interest at heart is really my number one for my clients.
During my very first sit down consultation with the client is I tell them, I'm going to have difficult conversations with you and I'll always be upfront with you. And if that's not the type of agent you want, then I'm not it.
Right. Yeah. And that's so important though, because at least they know right now we have a listing outside the city here in Boston, and the client is going through a very hard family situation, and we listed her place so it would get a lot of offers. And what's becoming very evident is that she doesn't really want this price. She wants a different price, but I think she has unrealistic expectations of what we're going to get for this house. And we've had to have some difficult conversations. And I know she's in a very difficult personal situation too. So I think it's important to remember that it's not always about the house. It's about a bigger thing that's going on, and knowing it's not you. I think sometimes you get so invested in this work because it is the time that you're taking away from your family and your loved ones, but try to leave it at home, or really out of the home rather, so that you can focus on that quality time with your family. Because, those people that you're selling their house or helping them buy a place, outside of seeing you and buying the house, you're not really being thought about. And I think sometimes people have this unrealistic expectation that they're thinking about me all the time. They're waiting for me. It's like, they're not. It's okay. You're not that important to us. And every, day and every minute of every day. So yeah, but difficult conversations are the nature of the business. So, and it might turn out that we might need to let her go, and that's okay. It's really okay.
Sometimes it's just better for everybody. It was funny. You kind of reminded me when it was probably my first or second deal years ago, is you're talking to the buyer or seller every single day, multiple times a day. And then the moment they close, it's like, it's the weirdest. That was the weirdest transition. That actually took me a minute to get used to.
I've had clients be like, are you okay? I miss you. I'm like, I also miss you. It's like we dated. I miss seeing you guys every day. What's going on? How are the kids? Are you guys going to a play date? You want to go together?
But that's the outreach. That's the beauty in the outreach.
That is the outreach. I'm actually seeing a friend of mine who was a client of mine this weekend. But I think something I also struggle with, which I imagine, Shawn, you do too, is you want to be friends with all your clients, and you can't physically be friends with all your clients. But someone had told me early on when I got into real estate, they said, every month plan 2 dinners out. And that sounds really cute in the beginning, but then once you start booking them, your partner's like, sorry, who are these people? Why are we going to dinner? Do I have to go? I'm like, yes, you have to go.
And your accountant is like, hey, you spent $10,000 on dinners.
Also, I didn't even know those people. They were horrible. I'm like, they were really nice. I don't know what you're talking about, but it's just, so you kind of figure out what works for you, and where you are in your life, whether you're up for that and how much you want to go into that. For me, it was like, I have too many people that I'm friends with anyways to be able to give that another, pillar in my time. And your time is your biggest asset.
We shifted because I had the same time and timing constraints, and we did the math. And if we do a quarterly event with about 20 to 25 couples, and I spend 2 hours with them, that's giving me a lot of face time with all the individual people. And I'm only investing 2 hours plus my invite time. So let's say 3 hours invited in, whereas if I do dinners, that's 2 dinners. And so like in terms of concentrating my time, mini events I have found have been just by far the most beneficial thing, because to go back to our earlier part of the conversation, if we're at an art gallery and we're having caviar and sipping wine, that's new touch points. Those are new data points for them to know about me, because now we can talk about wine, or we can talk about art, or we can talk about anything else other than just, hey, I do real estate. And I feel, again, at the end of the day, when they have all these other touch points, it's when they say to their neighbor's like, oh, we're thinking about moving. And they're like, oh my God, you have to talk to Shawn. By the way, throws the best parties. It's immediately puts you in a different category.
Right. Totally. And I think that's something though that came with experience, because I think probably early days, you're like trying to do everything and be, again, an expert and networker and try to talk to everybody and give everyone 100% of your time. But that probably came from learning how to balance. You had to balance, your time and figure out how to create that value, but not spend every, month spending it with a bunch of people, at dinners out, and spending probably twice that you would on an event.
Correct.
An attorney or a lender or something, right? Totally. So I'm doing some interesting things like that this year too. I'm doing like a Mother's Day photo shoot, which I think will be fun in the park. And I'm going to have people book like 10-minute increments, and, we'll pay for it. And then it's like a touch point with all the families that I've worked with, and it's free. And so again, creating that value. But I think thinking creatively about some things like that are really important.
Yeah. I mean, you have an ace in the hole. Do a client's only yoga day, and then have it catered and have mimosas after and some little snacks. Like I think that's like a super cool, again, it's like figuring out for all of us.
For yoga, my biggest challenge is every time I say that, I'm like, oh, I'll do this yoga event. People are like, well, I'm not flexible. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if you're flexible. No one cares. No one cares if you're flexible. Just come and have fun, or just come for the drinks afterwards. They're just, people come up with excuses, but you're right. I should do more of those. I'm going to do that collaboration with Lululemon. So hopefully I get a bunch of clients to that, among other events that we have going on this year.
For all of us, all agents, it's like we have these other things that we can do. You can lean into it. And I think, too, is, all right, fine. If you're not the cold calling type person, or you're not the door knocking person, that's awesome. Don't do it. But there is something that you have a superpower. I don't know what it is, but go find it.
Right. Go do a lot of it and lean into whatever you find is authentic to you, instead of, and I think with social media today, you always compare yourself to, oh, well, this person's doing this really cool thing and doing TikTok videos. Should I do TikTok videos? It's like, do you want to do TikTok videos?
Do you want to lip sync?
Right.
If that's what you want to do.
I think it's for new agents and even older agents that are trying to find some competitive advantage. Just be authentic, because otherwise everyone will know it's not authentic to you.
I'll tell you my secret. I'm insanely curious. I love talking to agents. I love figuring out what they're doing. And I'm building out my network right now. This is my network of agents on a national level. And so if I have a referral going to Boston, I have people on speed dial, and I have them. I mean, most agents will interview a colleague for 10, maybe 15 minutes before sending a referral. I basically get an hour every time.
Through this networking group, but like my coaching group, we just had this conference, but I go onto that networking group for referrals, and going to the conference and having these biannual events where it congregates everyone. It's a great opportunity to network with people. And that's so important. I had met someone through an event, and I called him and I said, can you take care of him? And he said, 100%, no problem. So building those connections, as opportunities come up and you have people that move, is so important, right? And just leaning on each other for best practices, what's working well. I love that. And I think sometimes people feel like it's, we're all in this competition together, but really we're all here to help each other, I think, grow our own business.
The reality is, the math is, you and I will never, ever, ever, ever compete, ever. And even in your own market, the likelihood of you going to a listing against another agent is it's like 1%. And then you competing against them on the buy side, you won't even know. And so, but you then back up and you look at the math of how often can you collaborate? You guys can collaborate all the time. The opportunities to collaborate far outweigh the competition. And so my one big wish is I wish more people would internalize that, because it is genuinely an opportunity for the rising tide to lift all of the ships simultaneously.
Absolutely. And if you have something off market, I want to know about it. I want to know for my clients. I want to blast it to all of my buyers and say, hey, anyone interested in this area? I just found out about this off-market opportunity. It makes me look good. It makes them look good because they're leaning on this collaboration with me and others. So it's very short-sighted not to do that, but talk to more people, talk to more agents. And I didn't do that very well when I first started out. I really didn't network as much as I do now. And actually, my former teammate, Trevor, who started his own team, he did a ton of networking. And I learned from him that it's paramount to success.
100%. And I think that is the absolute perfect way to end cap this entire session, is just go out there and network. Steph, this was a total blast. I genuinely appreciate our chat today.
Me too. I want to hang out. When are you moving to Boston? Do you need some help with buying property?
It's funny. I was literally just the other day, last weekend, I was sitting on the couch in the early morning looking at properties in Connecticut. That's where I'm born and raised.
Okay. It's like a rocks throw. We'll just have you move to Boston, and then you can go see family in Connecticut.
Before moving out to the West Coast, it was literally a coin toss between Boston and New York. And then ultimately the weather was the deciding factor to move to California.
I'll tell you, I look outside, there's not any snow, and it's 60 degrees out, and it's spring. So it's just, we didn't even have any snow, this winter, really. We had one storm. So take that with what you will, but global warming is hitting us hard over here in the East Coast, and I'm a winter lover, so it breaks my heart. But for you, coming from California, you might like it here again.
We'll see. Time will tell.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. It was so fun.
Awesome. Thank you.